Assalamualaikum and hi. Today's topic is listening. After the completion of this topic, you will be able to understand the importance of listening and critical thinking, the four causes of poor listening, and how to become a better listener. Let's start with the difference between hearing and listening. Not listening doesn't mean we don't hear. Hearing is a physiological process involving the vibration of sound waves on our eardrums and the firing of electrochemical impulses from the inner ear to the central auditory system of the brain. But listening involves paying attention to and making sense of what we hear. One of the ways listening can serve you is by enhancing your skills as a critical thinker. We can identify four kinds of listening. First is appreciative listening. It is a listening for pleasure or enjoyment, as when we listen to music, to a comedy routine, or to an entertaining speech. Second, empathic listening. It is to provide emotional support for the speaker, as when a psychiatrist listens to a patient or when we lend a sympathetic ear to a friend in distress. Third is comprehensive listening, which is to understand the message of a speaker, as when we attend a classroom lecture or listen to directions for finding a friend's house. Finally, is critical thinking. It is to evaluate a message for purposes of accepting or rejecting it, as when we listen to the sales speech of a car salesperson. Four causes of poor listening starts with not concentrating. The brain is incredibly efficient. Although we talk at a rate of 120 to 180 words a minute, the brain can process 400 to 500 words a minute. This would seem to make listening very easy, but actually, it has the opposite effect. Because we can process a speaker's word and still have plenty of spare brain time, we are tempted to interrupt our listening by thinking about other things. Until now, we have been talking about not paying close attention to what we hear. But sometimes we listen too hard. We turn into human sponges, soaking up a speaker's every word as if every word were equally important. We try to remember all the names, all the dates, all the places. In the process, we often miss the speaker's main point. What is worse, we may end up confusing the facts as well. Jumping to conclusion is putting words into a speaker's mouth. It is one reason why we sometimes communicate so poorly with people we are closest to. Because we're so sure we know what they mean, we don't listen to what they actually say. Sometimes we judge people by the way they look or speak and don't listen to what they say. It's easy to become distracted by a speaker's accent, personal appearance, or vocal mannerism and lose sight of the message. Focusing on a speaker's delivery or personal appearance is one of the major sources of interference in the speech communication process. And it is sometimes something that we always need to guard first. Finally, how to become a better listener. The first step towards becoming a better listener is to accord listening to the seriousness it deserves. Active listeners give their undivided attention to the speaker in a genuine effort to understand his or her point of view. Next is resist distraction. Because we think so much faster than a speaker can talk, it's easy to let our attention wander. Whenever you find this happening, make a conscious effort to pull your mind back to what the speaker is saying. Then force it to stay there. Set aside preconceived judgments based on a person's look or manner of speech. Then we have suspend judgment. Unless we listen only to people who think exactly as we do, we are going to hear things with which we disagree. When this happens, our natural inclination is to argue mentally with the speaker or to dismiss everything she or he says. But neither response is fair, and in both cases, we blot out any chance of learning or being persuaded. Skilled listeners do not try to absorb a speaker's every word. Rather, they focus on specific things in a speech. You can focus and listen for main points, evidence, and technique. And finally, develop note taking skills. Although there are a number of systems, most students find the keyword outline best for listening to classroom lectures and formal speeches. As its name suggests, this method briefly notes a speaker's main points and supporting evidence in rough outline form. That's the end of this session. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.